Hello everyone, and welcome. Since the beginning of the Naruto series, the Sharingan was shown as a dojutsu capable of copying techniques. So much so that Kakashi earned the nickname Mirror Ninja because he copied over 1,000 jutsu with Obito's Sharingan. 1,000 jutsu is a hell of a lot. But have you ever wondered why this ability stopped being utilized in the series? Because after all, in theory, it would be an extremely powerful and versatile ability. During classic Naruto, we saw Kakashi use this ability a few times, and even Sasuke used it to copy Rock Lee. We saw that this ability is very useful. But during Naruto Shippuden, it was never mentioned again. Kishimoto simply forgot. The ninja who became famous for copying techniques stopped copying. The first thing we have to understand is that during classic Naruto, Kishimoto was still developing the work. There were many changes between. Certain ideas were discarded and better ones were developed. But was the Sharingan's copy ability just discarded? That's what we're going to look at today. During the Land of Waves arc, Zabuza already knew Kakashi as the famous Mirror Ninja, showing that Kakashi possessed a Sharingan, something that should be exclusive to the Uchiha clan. Although this was the first serious fight in the series, Kakashi's true capabilities were shown, demonstrating that he is an extremely powerful ninja. In his fight against Zabuza, Kakashi reproducing several techniques with perfection: the water clone, the water dragon, and the powerful great water vortex. He completed the hand seals and finished the movement before Zabuza could even conclude his own jutsu. But what is truly impressive is the balance of strength between the two. Even with Zabuza being a master of the water style, Zabuza tied in power against Kakashi. Even without an affinity for water, Kakashi equaled the power of a specialist. In the second confrontation between the two, Kishimoto did something incredible. Instead of focusing on the Sharingan, he showed Zabuza cleverly counterattacking using the fog to nullify Kakashi's ocular power, giving Kakashi room to show more of his own techniques. This is where the iconic Chidori, or lightning cutter, Kakashi's signature jutsu, emerges. Furthermore, we saw that Kakashi mastered summons, showing that he was not just a copying ninja, far beyond his copied techniques. During the Chunin exam, Sasuke imitated Rock Lee's movements and used this learned skill against Yoroi in the preliminaries. The problem is that this was the only time Sasuke really used this ability. He never copied anything again, but no other Uchiha showed the same capacity to copy Itachi, Madara, Obito, Shisui. None of them were seen reproducing techniques in this way. And that's funny because the name Sharingan means copy wheel eye or revolving mirror eye. Even not being an Uchiha, Kakashi makes a more intelligent and practical use of the Sharingan than the Uchihas themselves. During the Chunin exam, Kakashi did not participate in relevant fights, such as when he and Guy faced the Sound Ninja, who did not pose a great challenge. He didn't even need to activate the Sharingan, solving everything easily. But after the exams, the Sharingan shone again when Kakashi faced Kisame and Itachi. In that fight, he equaled Kisame's water jutsu, and the shockwaves cancelled each other out. Just as he had done with Zabuza, he once again faced a water specialist on equal terms, even though he had an affinity for another element. These moments show how devastating the ability to copy jutsu could be in the hands of a powerful user. Kakashi also uses the water clone and the water barrier to neutralize Itachi's attacks, and this ends up being practically his last major fight in classic Naruto. When we get to Naruto Shippuden, this ability practically disappears from the story. Another important point is that Kakashi didn't copy Minato's Rasengan. Many people think Minato taught him the technique, but Kakashi actually just tried to fuse the Rasengan with lightning chakra, and the Chidori was born from that. Another example is the Earth-style mud wall, used several times in Shippuden, which seems to have been another one of his copied techniques. Before we continue, I'd like to thank everyone who has subscribed, commented, and shared. It shows that I'm doing a good job, and it encourages me to keep going. And if you'd like to support the channel even more, check out the links in the description. Picking up where we left off. So the question remains, what happened to the 1,000 techniques? Kakashi is a character full of possibilities due to the fact that he is the Mirror Ninja, which means any technique the author wanted to give him would make sense. It would be enough to say he had already copied it, but even so, not much of his techniques were ever shown in Naruto Shippuden. We never had the feeling that Kakashi was the Mirror Ninja. During the Fourth Great Ninja War, when Kakashi gained the Mangekyou, Obito even says, "Remember your nickname, Kakashi of the Sharingan." But wait a minute, Kishimoto wasn't his nickname, the Mirror Ninja. The author simply left it aside and changed his nickname to Kakashi of the Sharingan to sound more impactful. But in the end, with this, the character's main identity was somewhat erased. After Kakashi obtained the Kamui, he gained absurd power, a technique so versatile that it served both for defense and attack. In the fight against Pain, for example, he uses Kamui to protect himself from a nail, showing the defensive potential of the jutsu. And let's face it, in Shippuden, he faced enemies of another level. People with abilities that couldn't be copied in any way. He couldn't replicate Pain's almighty push, nor Obito's own Kamui, and much less techniques based on Kekkei Genkai, Susanoo, the Amaterasu, and the Mangekyou abilities were also out of reach. But why didn't Kakashi copy a single jutsu from Kakuzu? Earth Style, Earth Spear, for example. A solid defense that he had to pierce with the Raikiri, and it's impossible not to think, why didn't he copy that technique? During the battle, Kakashi himself comments that he was observing Kakuzu's hand seals, analyzing the type of chakra used. He simply could have copied. It would have been a great addition to his arsenal, giving him more defensive options. This also reinforces how essential hand seals were in the ninja world, something that was also forgotten as the series progressed. The fact is that the Sharingan and its functions, which were introduced in the first arcs of Naruto, were not fully finalized. Kishimoto only had the basic idea and adjusted his ideas as the story evolved. The part about predicting movements continued because it was practical and easy to fit into battles. But the ability to copy techniques required more attention and creativity, as every time a Sharingan user appeared, the script needed to justify how they were learning something new in real time. And this would become repetitive and boring for Kishimoto to write. When the Mangekyou Sharingan emerged, it was obvious that the focus had shifted. The new abilities were much more impressive. Kamui, Amaterasu, Tsukuyomi, Susanoo, all these techniques had much greater narrative, visual, and emotional weight than simply reproducing someone else's jutsu. In Kakashi's case, the Kamui served as a kind of foreshadowing of his connection with Obito. Those who paid attention noticed the pattern. Kakashi's Kamui and Tobi's ability to become intangible had the same dimensional nature. It was an indication of what was to come, a direct connection between master and childhood friend. Furthermore, it makes sense that he is more comfortable using the Raikiri, as it was a jutsu he created himself. Kakashi's story in Shippuden is closely tied to Obito, and the Kamui symbolizes this relationship well. The gift that Obito left by entrusting the Sharingan to him. There's an emotional and narrative weight there. Think about this with me. Imagine Madara, with a perfect Susanoo, using wood style and throwing meteors from the sky, stopping everything just to copy a basic random jutsu. It wouldn't make the slightest bit of sense. The same goes for Sasuke with the Mangekyou with absurd powers at his disposal. He wouldn't need to keep copying common techniques. But here's where things get interesting. It's strange that Kakashi, who isn't even an Uchiha, took advantage of the Sharingan better than most of the Uchihas themselves. The natural users seem to ignore the potential, or maybe Kishimoto simply abandoned that aspect. In the end, the Sharingan became something very different from what it was in its introduction. When Kakashi gained the Mangekyou and awakened the perfect Susanoo, his arsenal became so powerful that it truly didn't make sense to continue copying techniques. Kamui, Raikiri, variations. Dimensional shurikens, the guy was already a complete force. Perhaps that's why the strongest Uchihas didn't even need to use the copy ability. They were far beyond that. The direction the Sharingan took is clearly distinct from Kishimoto's initial idea. In the beginning, the dojutsu was about perception, reading, and imitation. In the end, it became a source of unique and devastating powers. This change is evident when we compare the early Kakashi copying moves like a strategist with the late Kakashi who manipulates dimensions and destroys enemies with spatial attacks. And it's easy to understand why. Techniques like Amaterasu, Tsukuyomi, Kamui, and Susanoo are much more eye-catching and sell better in the narrative. They provide visual impact and emotional weight, something that copying common jutsu no longer brought. Kishimoto left this ability aside early on with Itachi's introduction, when he showed the Tsukuyomi and the Amaterasu. From that point on, the Sharingan stopped being a mirror eye and became a symbol of absolute power. Even so, it would have been possible to keep both ideas coexisting. The Sharingan could continue to be a copying tool, while the advanced abilities were restricted to Mangekyou wielders. It's a shame, because in the end, the mirror ninja became just the Raikiri and Kamui ninja. And while the character's development was coherent, it would have been much more interesting to see him rescue his origins and use the vast arsenal of copied techniques. Imagine during the Great Ninja War, Kakashi pulling out forgotten jutsu, sealing techniques copied from other villains, or even rare defenses that would surprise enemies. That would show Kakashi's true potential and a glimpse of the 1,000 techniques he was known for. In the end, the Kakashi of Shippuden is a complete character, but also a symbol of how much the focus of the Sharingan changed. The power that began as an ability for learning and observation turned into an almost divine manifestation of destruction and control. Even though Kakashi was initially known as the Mirror Ninja, Kishimoto didn't show the versatility of his Sharingan. Did he transform him into the Kamui and Raikiri ninja? But leave a comment letting me know if you liked the direction the story took, and what techniques you would have liked Kakashi to have copied. Thank you all for watching this far. A big hug. God bless, who is the foundation of everything, and until next time.